Now I want to show you what these false doors look like with 2 coats of paint on them. Now you have to remember, they look easy to do, and you can spray them, but even if you spray them with a 210 Graco tip, you still have to get on this angle, you have to get on the top angle, the side angle, this side, all the way down, underneath, and I've probably missed a couple of places. Now if you're working for a woman, and you're doing a job for a woman, be very careful, because they may smile at you, but I'll tell you what, they will double check everything very, very carefully. Now what I want to show you is, this has been dual coated, and I'll have a little bit of cutting in right here, and then where it's white up there, where I made a little mistake, I'll just take a little black paint and fix that. But what I'm going to do is, these false bamboo right here will be painted either the body color or the trim color, and if that doesn't feel right, then we'll paint it something else. But what I want to show you is, now remember that all your paint is water based, and I just painted this door so it looks kind of bulky. Now generally you can't paint flat doors standing up. It just doesn't work. You have to take them off, put door deckers on them. If you're a painter, you know what that means. And you have to spray them out. But these doors were custom made, and I went 4 years ago and I caulked in every joint. There was not one bit of caulk in this whole house. But the thing I want to show you is this. I've taken my roller right here and I've double coated this door. Okay, and you can see my hands. Now remember that the painter, his main thing is to get the paint on the surface and not anywhere else. With 2 coats of paint and all those angles, this is how much paint I dropped on the floor. I want you to take a look. Not very much, and it's easy to do if you go slow. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is tape. And I've seen videos of taping all the walls for cutting the ceilings. I've seen purple tape, blue tape. We only use, in the profession, we only use white tape, 3/4, right here, because it's wide enough, no, 1.5 inches. It's wide enough to where we can make a little mistake and not get it on something. You can see it comes out about 1.5 inches. An inch is too thin. Now with the tape here, this is Sherwood & Williams tape, but the one thing I wanted to tell you about taping, and that's a whole other art, is that your tape here, you never leave it on overnight. Never. Now when you're doing a house and you're doing it with another guy, one guy is usually taping ahead. He starts an hour early. He tapes ahead, and then the painter comes around after the paint has tacked up, and that means after it has got sticky enough to where it's not going to dry or not going to move, but it's tacky enough, and you can see why I use these knives. Now it's hard for me to do this with one hand. Anyway, you pry this open and you just take that off. And with the door lock and the handle, it's the same way. If you leave these overnight, what happens is the paint seeps in and dries the adhesive. And when you go to try and pull this off, what happens is you get a bunch of paint that comes off. If you have a problem, or you think you have a problem, take your little painter's knife, not your box cutter, your painter's knife, and score lightly around the edges like this. Okay. And then take these off as soon as the paint is just tacky enough. Tacky enough to where it's not going to flow onto the object, but wet enough to where you aren't going to pull it off and you're going to pull great big hunks of it off, because paint is kind of like a vinyl. Anyway, that's what I'm going to do right now, but that's the tip for the day. Down here you can see where I've had the silver piece down here that's covered. What I want to tell you is that, you know, I've seen a lot of videos on purple tape, white, yellow tape, frog tape, goat tape. Some of it's $11 a spool. All right. There is nothing that will give you a sharpest line than white tape. Nothing. The reason that blue tape is used is if we were going to use blue tape on this woodwork to keep from, if we pulled the tape off, to keep from pulling the stain off the wood. Okay, we use it in bathrooms, kitchens, something like that. But we don't use it on anything else because it's not a sharp edge. So what you want to do is you want to take this off. And you're seeing it come off just as I am. You know, we want to pull away from it. Okay, and you want to set it down. Fine. Now, I may have a couple little mistakes here. I can use a little bit of oops on it, clean that up, or just leave it, doesn't matter. But the point is, you do not want to take this tape off when it's totally dry, because it will come off in clumps and it will take hours to take it off. That's another thing. You do not want to leave. You can use white tape on windows, but you do not want to leave it in the sun, because the white tape adhesive will meld with the glass for some reason. This happens in auto body. It happens in on houses, and it is a pain in the ass to get off. It takes hours to get it off. So as soon as your paint gets tacked up, and this is getting white, I mean, it's getting the water's coming off of it. But as soon as the paint gets tacked up enough, then carefully take the masking off and stick it in a garbage can. Now I want to show you how much paint I dropped on the floor. This is what a professional painter does. There is none on the floor, hardly, and there's none on my hands. Now if this is a customer's house, I'd probably have the door taken off with 2 or 3 guys. We take it down the shop. We'd run 12-inch masking all the way along the front, all the way along the back stem. This is the back stem right here. Right here. And the reason that I'm going to leave this open and let it dry all night, this is a common mistake people make. Now, you see this weather stripping right here? Okay, this is an oddball weather stripping. It's done in '67. But if you go to, you can see there's a little yellow paint on there. If you go to shut this door when the paint is not dry, it will stick to this weather stripping. So you want to let it dry for a day. And if that doesn't work too well, another trick is you put a little bit of Vaseline on the weather stripping. And most weather stripping today is removable. Okay, this is not removable. Well, it is, but most weather stripping will pull right out. If you paint a door in place, you want to pull the weather stripping out, and you just want to leave it off until the door dries, because if you shut the door, half the weather stripping is going to be on pulling off the paint. Now that's just one thing. Now that's from being a professional painter. And I'm going to make a whole series on this, because I've seen some videos that are absolutely horrible. I mean, they're good videos for a handyman, but they don't tell you the whole physics behind everything. And physics is what I'm interested in. I'm interested in why the paint moves where it does, how it does, how the body is used to move the paintbrush to make a straight line. Remember Leonardo and all those other guys? They didn't use any tape, and they didn't get paint everywhere. They were just careful. They learned how to do it. Now this has got 2 coats on it. Then what I'll do is I'll run a not a rag doll. That's what I used on it. I will use a small pink roller and do my accent color on this very lightly. Right here and maybe right here. It depends, you know, how it looks. If it doesn't look right, I don't know. Generally, I would mask this door off up here and up here. As soon as I get done with the accent colors on this door, these 3 doors, and it took me all day to do because they're custom made doors and they're really heavy, and they were made in '67, so they're really old. I'll probably mask from here all the way up, all the way over. I'll mask the whole thing off, and then I'll go to paint. Now remember, I could spray this whole thing out, and there's a reason I'm doing it by hand. One reason is because I like to experiment, and it gets me better at my painting. And painting to me is art, where I can sign my name to it. So I don't want to just do it by the 9 to 5 method. So those are some tips on painting and how much painting that you're going to spill on something. If you go slow, you won't spill it. But most people don't know the basics and the techniques of how to use the brush and how to use your body to do it. And believe me, putting tape, this is what we use. We use Sherwin-Williams right here. This is favored by all the painters I've worked with because, well, they're painters. They just like this tape for some reason. We use either 1.5 inch CP66 or we'll use 1.5 inch blue. And that's all. Not your green frog tape or your goat cheese tape or anything like that. Okay.